What unfolds when one of Hollywood's most admired actresses goes head-to-head with a talk show host, aiming to catch her off guard with personal questions on live television? Tonight we examine a gripping exchange that caught the public's attention. The moment Jennifer Lawrence responded to Stephen Colbert's persistent questioning, leading to a rare moment of visible frustration. Before we break down this memorable encounter, be sure to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. The atmosphere inside the Late Show studio was charged with excitement, as Stephen Colbert wrapped up his opening monologue to enthusiastic applause. The crowd was upbeat, expecting a relaxed and entertaining conversation with Jennifer Lawrence. As the cheering settled, Stephen's expression shifted ever so slightly, his smile taking on a more deliberate tone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Academy Award-winning actress, Jennifer Lawrence," he announced with his usual energy. Jennifer appeared, glowing in a stylish black dress, greeting the audience with a wave as they stood in appreciation. She seemed completely at ease as she sat down. "Jennifer, welcome back to the show," Stephen began, his tone warm though carrying a subtle edge Jennifer didn't immediately notice. "Thanks, Stephen. It's always a pleasure," she responded, her smile lighting up the room. Stephen started with a standard question. "So your new film explores some pretty intense psychological themes. What was that experience like for you?" Jennifer eagerly discussed the complexities of her role, describing her preparation, the emotional depth required, and the rewarding collaboration with the director and cast. Her enthusiasm for the project was clear as she spoke. "That sounds incredibly intense," Stephen responded, then paused, his tone growing firmer. "On the topic of intensity, I have to ask, there have been some online discussions, reports suggesting tension on set, particularly regarding how you interact with crew members." Jennifer's expression shifted briefly, a hint of confusion appearing. "I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean. What reports?" "Well," Stephen continued, adopting the tone of a reporter rather than a host, "there are anonymous claims suggesting a pattern of difficult behavior, allegedly making excessive demands, and contributing to a tense work environment. I honestly have no idea where that's coming from," Jennifer said, her demeanor turning more serious. "I've always made it a point to be professional and respectful on set. I think if you spoke with any director or producer I've worked with, they'd offer a very different perspective. But these sources seem quite credible," Stephen pressed on, dismissing her explanation. "They outline specific incidents where you allegedly had outbursts and demanded treatment beyond what's typical, even for a star." Jennifer shifted slightly in her seat, visibly uneasy with the way the discussion was unfolding. "I'm not sure why you're focusing on anonymous hearsay, instead of my work. This sounds more like tabloid speculation than responsible journalism," she responded. "I'm just trying to uncover the truth," Stephen said with feigned sincerity. "People deserve to know who they're supporting when they pay to see your films." "The truth?" Jennifer echoed, her voice tightening. "I've spent over 10 years building a reputation in this industry for being professional and easy to work with. I don't understand why you'd blindside me with vague accusations instead of having a meaningful conversation." Realizing he was getting a reaction, Stephen doubled down. "Since we're talking about the truth, let's address your recent comments on pay equality in Hollywood. Some critics say your stance is more about publicity than genuine concern, especially considering your own wealth." Jennifer's jaw tensed. "My advocacy for equal pay is not a publicity move, Stephen. It's about promoting fairness across the board, for every woman working in film, not just myself. I've taken less money and supported policy changes to prove that point." "But isn't it easy for someone who's earned tens of millions to make those arguments?" Stephen pushed, his tone growing sharper. "Some say it's hard to take that seriously coming from someone in your position." "I think what's hard to take seriously," Jennifer responded, her composure slipping, "is being criticized for using my platform to highlight real issues. I could stay silent and benefit from the status quo, but I choose to speak up because it matters. Or maybe it just keeps you in the headlines," Stephen quipped, flashing a smug smile that lacked warmth. The atmosphere in the studio began to shift. What began as a light-hearted interview had clearly turned into a tense confrontation. Jennifer glanced at the audience, then turned back to Stephen, her expression now tinged with disbelief and rising frustration. "Are you seriously questioning my intentions in advocating for equal treatment?" she asked, her voice edged with warning. I'm just voicing what some people are wondering, he replied, maintaining a facade of innocence. Isn't that part of honest journalism? Journalism, Jennifer said sharply. Stephen, this isn't journalism. This is rumor-driven sensationalism dressed up as legitimate inquiry. Honestly, I expected better from you. Stephen leaned back, clearly unfazed by the tension. I just think the audience has a right to hear every perspective. We shouldn't pretend there's no elephant in the room. What elephant? Jennifer asked, her patience nearly gone. You're referencing unnamed sources and vague accusations. Where's the actual evidence? Where are the facts? The fact is several individuals have come forward, Stephen responded smugly. Are you suggesting they're all being dishonest? I'm saying that without names, without confirmation, without real proof, what you're doing amounts to character defamation, Jennifer replied, her voice rising. This is exactly the type of reckless media behavior that damages reputations and careers with nothing more than speculation. The studio fell silent, tension hanging in the air. Audience members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, clearly uneasy with how the interview was progressing. Stephen picked up on the shift but pressed on. All right, let's discuss something more specific. Your professional relationship with director David O. Russell. There have been claims of heated exchanges on multiple sets. Do you want to address that? Jennifer's expression hardened. Working with directors means navigating creative differences. That's a normal part of the filmmaking process. Trying to frame those conversations as scandalous says more about your approach than it does about the situation. But witnesses described more than disagreements. They mentioned yelling, walkouts, even threats to leave projects. Stephen insisted, shuffling through his note cards for effect. Witnesses, Jennifer scoffed. So more anonymous sources. This is cowardly, Stephen. You're hiding behind unverified claims to go after someone sitting right in front of you. I'm just doing my job, Stephen replied, feigning defensiveness. Your job is to entertain viewers and engage in thoughtful discussions with your guests. Jennifer snapped back. Not to blindside them with tabloid-style attacks pretending to be interviews. Stephen's frustration started to show, his composure cracking. Maybe if you were more transparent about who you really are, we wouldn't need to have this conversation. Who I really am, Jennifer repeated, clearly stunned. You have no idea who I am. Instead of researching my work, my charity efforts, or the professional relationships I've built, you've been browsing gossip websites. I have done my homework, Stephen replied firmly. And what I've seen is someone who portrays one image in public, while acting differently in private. At that, Jennifer stood abruptly, catching both Stephen and the audience off guard. That's it. I came here to discuss my film, and have a respectful conversation, not to be attacked under the guise of journalism. Sit down, Jennifer. We're not finished, Stephen said, his tone shifting to one of authority. Oh, we're done, Jennifer replied evenly. I'm not going to stay here and let you try to tear down my character with baseless rumors, just to boost your ratings. Stephen, realizing he was losing control of the exchange, made one last effort. This is live TV, Jennifer. You can't just walk out because the questions are uncomfortable. Watch me, she said calmly, still standing and locking eyes with him. Stephen turned to the audience with an exaggerated shrug. This, folks, is what happens when you ask celebrities tough questions. They can't handle honest conversation. That remark pushed Jennifer over the edge. Honest conversation. You want to talk about truth, she said, her voice firm. The truth is I've built my career by treating people with respect and working professionally. The truth is I've used my platform to support meaningful causes and make a positive impact. What's really happening here is that you're using baseless rumors and misinformation to create drama for attention. They're not baseless, Stephen said, though his response lacked strength. Then prove it. Jennifer shot back, her voice carrying through the now silent room. Name your sources. Present your evidence. If you really care about truth and journalism, then act like a journalist, not a tabloid host. Stephen shuffled his note cards, clearly not expecting such direct resistance. I have to protect my sources, he said. How convenient, Jennifer replied dryly. Very convenient that your sources need protection while they spread false claims. The audience sat in total silence, closely following the tense exchange. Many looked visibly uneasy, unsure of how to react. Stephen made one more attempt to steer the conversation. "Jennifer, I think you're blowing this out of proportion. This is standard interview material." "Standard?" Jennifer's laugh was flat and cold. "There's nothing standard about what happened here tonight. You've disregarded the basic principles of ethical journalism and common decency. I'm just trying to hold you accountable," Stephen insisted, though his tone lacked its earlier certainty. "Accountable for what?" Jennifer countered. "For rumors without proof, for being successful, for speaking out on real issues. If accountability is your goal, maybe start with yourself." Stephen tried to cut in, but Jennifer continued without hesitation. "You've used this platform tonight to push on to undermine someone's character without evidence, and to turn what should have been a professional discussion into something personal. If anyone needs to be held accountable for that, it's you." A heavy silence filled the studio. Stephen glanced around, hoping for support from the crowd, but was met only with uncertain stares and disapproving looks. "You know what, Stephen?" Jennifer said, breaking the silence. "I've been in this industry long enough to recognize a setup when I see one. This was never meant to be a real interview, was it?" Stephen shifted in his chair, the confidence in his posture beginning to slip. "I don't know what you mean. This is how interviews go." "No, Stephen," Jennifer replied calmly. "This is how setups go. A proper interview is built on preparation, actual research, and thoughtful questions. Questions that inform the audience, not feed your ego." The audience had begun exchanging glances, many nodding in quiet agreement with Jennifer's remarks. The atmosphere in the studio had clearly shifted, and Stephen could sense his control over the moment slipping away. "Jennifer, please have a seat, so we can wrap this up properly," Stephen said again, but his tone no longer carried any authority. "Properly," Jennifer echoed, raising her eyebrows. "You gave up any sense of professionalism the second you chose to confront me with unverified rumors instead of discussing my work." Stephen looked toward his producers, at the edge of the set, silently hoping for guidance, but they appeared just as caught off guard as everyone else in the room. "Look, maybe we started off on the wrong foot," Stephen offered, attempting to recover the situation. "Let's reset, and talk about your latest project." Jennifer responded with a short, dry laugh that cut through the studio silence. "Reset? Stephen, you can't undo what's already been said. You can't spend 20 minutes attacking someone's integrity, and then act like it's business as usual." "I wasn't attacking you," Stephen replied, lacking conviction. "I was just asking relevant questions." "Relevant questions," Jennifer repeated, her voice firmer now. "Based on what reliable sources?" "You've relied on anonymous claims, as if they somehow carry journalistic weight. That's not how responsible reporting works." Stephen once again turned to his note cards, clearly unsure of how to steer the conversation back to neutral ground. "The public deserves to know about the people they admire. They deserve facts, not speculation dressed up as reporting." Jennifer countered. "What you've done here isn't journalism, it's a personal attack, and frankly, it's unworthy of the platform you have." By now the audience was fully engaged, watching the exchange unfold without distraction. Some even began applauding Jennifer's responses, signaling visible support for her stance. Stephen took notice, and tried one last time to reclaim control. "I think you're taking a few standard questions too personally." At that, Jennifer's patience wore thin. She stepped slightly closer to the desk, her voice calm but intense. "Too personally," she said, her tone measured but sharp. "Stephen, you've spent nearly 30 minutes questioning my integrity on national television, and now you say I'm being too emotional." "I'm just doing my job," Stephen repeated, his voice trailing off. "Your job is to create engaging conversations with your guests," Jennifer replied, her voice rising. "Not to circulate unconfirmed stories, or attack people's character. What you've done tonight doesn't reflect real journalism. It reflects poorly on your entire show." Stephen glanced around, realizing he had completely lost control, not just of the interview, but of the entire studio. The audience was clearly siding with Jennifer, his crew looked uneasy, and his guest was steadily undermining his credibility in front of everyone. "Jennifer, I think you need to relax," he said, a remark that only worsened the situation. "Relax?" Jennifer repeated, her tone sharp. "You've spent half an hour blindsiding me with rumors and unfounded claims, challenging my integrity, professionalism, and intentions, and now you're telling me to relax." She then turned toward the audience, something that clearly unsettled Stephen further. "Everyone, this is a perfect example of why the public loses trust in the media. This is what happens when entertainment shows pose as journalism, yet ignore every ethical principle real journalists follow." The audience broke into applause, making their support for her clear. Stephen looked visibly shaken, as the crowd responded more favorably to his guest's criticism than to anything he had said. "Jennifer, please." Stephen tried once more, but she didn't let him finish. "Please what?" "Sit quietly, while you continue misrepresenting me. Pretend that this entire segment hasn't been a deliberate attack. Go along with your effort to stir up controversy at my expense." Stephen's face flushed, whether from embarrassment or frustration, it was unclear. "You're seriously overreacting to a few questions." "Questions?" Jennifer responded dryly. "You accused me of being unprofessional, based on unnamed sources. You dismissed my advocacy efforts as self-serving. You implied dishonesty and inconsistency in my work. That's not harmless questioning. That's a narrative built on speculation, not facts." She paused, and looked directly into the camera. "And the most disappointing part, I came here genuinely excited to talk about a film I care about, to discuss storytelling, and things that matter. Instead, I walked into an ambush from someone who thinks sensationalism is a substitute for journalism." Stephen made one final effort to steer the conversation back. "Well, this has definitely been a memorable discussion." "Memorable," Jennifer repeated, almost stunned. "Stephen, this wasn't a discussion, this was a targeted attack presented as an interview. There's a big difference." She began walking toward the side of the stage, clearly preparing to leave. Seeing this, Stephen's expression turned to panic. "Jennifer, you can't just walk out, we're still live," he called after her. She turned around once more, her expression composed but firm. "Stephen, you ended this interview the moment you decided to abandon basic journalistic standards and respect. I'm just choosing not to stay for what's left of it. This is completely unprofessional," Stephen said, his voice slightly unsteady. Jennifer stopped, and slowly turned back. Her expression was calm but firm. "Unprofessional? That's what you want to discuss," she replied, walking purposefully toward his desk, her presence commanding attention. "Unprofessional is ambushing a guest with unnamed sources. Unprofessional is using your platform to circulate unverified claims. It's attacking someone's reputation without credible evidence or accountability." Stephen started, but Jennifer continued. "Unprofessional is breaking the trust between a host and their guest. It's turning what should be a thoughtful discussion into a personal attack. And then, calling your guest unprofessional for standing up to it. That's beyond ironic." The studio was silent, Jennifer's voice carrying clearly throughout the space. "So yes, Stephen, someone here has acted unprofessionally tonight, but it wasn't me." With that, Jennifer Lawrence turned and walked off stage, leaving Stephen seated alone at his desk as the audience began applauding. The sound filled the room as she exited, while Stephen sat motionless, uncertain how to continue the show. As she disappeared backstage, Stephen looked directly into the camera, his usual composure gone. The charm and confidence that defined his on-air persona were replaced by the visible realization that his guest had just turned the situation against him. And without hesitation, the camera lingered on his expression as the applause continued, capturing a moment that would go down as one of the most uncomfortable and revealing exchanges in recent late-night television. What's your take on Jennifer Lawrence's response to Stephen Colbert's approach? Did she do the right thing by addressing it head-on, or should she have responded differently? Share your thoughts in the comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more behind-the-scenes insights into the moments when Hollywood interviews take an unexpected turn.